this is the reason why we're having these problems, because you're involving the child in this place at this time that this child has no reason to be into, listening to mother and father fight like this.
All right, so this is Mr. Ballard's motion. So, Mr. Ballard, what are you asking for today?
Your Honor, I'm asking that the initial statement of basically the visitation that occurred between Mr. Bagnell and the children on October 24th, there was a statement filed, and I'm asking for that to be stricken from the record, replaced with whatever the court's finding is based on the outcome of hearing the witnesses from both sides.
And anything else other than, I guess, striking a pleading and replacing it with findings of facts?
Judge, no, that's the only motion that I have on file that I'm aware is on file.
All right. All right. So, Mr. Ballard, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Call Mr. Bagnell. Robert, can you state your name, please? And Mr. Bagnell.
Hey, wait, and we didn't hear his answer.
He's muted.
Just a second, Judge. Let me readjust.
I think Mr. Bagnell is muted.
Yes.
Yes, Judge, this is Brian Bro. I will be handling the cross-examination on Mr. Bagnell and Mr. Mayu.
Well, you have to just slide over closer.
And Mr. Bagnell is muted.
Okay, yeah, Judge, if I take the mute off of him because we're in the same location, we get this terrible reverb, so I'm trying to reposition the microphone. Thank you. Okay, would you state your name, please? Judge, could you hear that?
No. While you're working that out, would it be better to hear from Mr. Mayhew, just so then he doesn't have to hang around?
Yes, Judge, we could, let me go ahead and I can do that so he doesn't have to stick around.
All right, so Mr. Mayhew, now, I don't know if you can hear me.
I don't know, we'll see.
Mr. Mayhew, can you hear me? Mr. Mayhew, you're muted. If you can unmute, there you go. Okay. Okay. So, Mr. Mayhew, the attorney is going to ask you some questions. So you may proceed.
Mr. Mayhew, my name is Scott Ballard. I represent Mr. Bagnell. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here today. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Hopefully, won't keep you too long. Mr. Mayhew, do you recall? Well, first of all, do you know the parties that are involved in this case?
I've seen them. I don't know them, but I've seen them.
Okay. Do you know Mr. Bagnell? It's the gentleman sitting up here to the right-hand corner that I'm pointing at. Have you ever seen him before?
Yes, I've seen him before.
Okay. There was an occasion that Mr. Bagnell was in a visitation at your restaurant. I believe it was October 24th of 2020. Do you recall that visitation?
Yes.
Okay. Could you describe to the court that day how you first became, or what drew your attention to Mr. Bagnell or his children to begin with?
Well, I noticed that they didn't have any drinks on their table for a little while. So I asked the server what was going on with them, and he said there seemed to be some sort of strange dynamic going on with them, that they weren't getting along, so they were delaying their order a bit. And then that's about the first thing that I noticed about them.
Okay, and I apologize for going out of order here. What is your job?
I'm the general manager at Grimaldi's Pizzeria.
Okay, and you were in fact on duty on October 24th. Is that correct?
I believe that's the date. Whatever date they had their disagreement here.
Okay, all right, thank you. So the waitress said that, or the waiter said that they seemed to not be getting along. What did you do in response to that, or if anything?
I didn't do anything in response to that.
Okay. Was there an instance that you saw that Mr. Bagnell was acting inappropriately or angrily or acting out in any way that was unusual?
No, I didn't see anything like that.
Were you on the floor the entire time
Yes.
in the dining room?
Yes.
Okay. Did any of the parties first reach out to you or something?
Yes. So I went over to the host stand. I did notice at one point there was an outburst at the table. I didn't hear what was said, but the older of the two girls was saying something to the father, and she was emotional. And then both of the girls were emotional. And at some point they left the table. I didn't notice when. And I went over to my host stand, which was between the table and the restroom, to check on something. And then the girls both came out of the restroom and came up to me crying, and asked to speak to the manager.
And did you speak to them?
Yes.
And did they tell you what was wrong, or did you ask them what was wrong?
They came up to me and said that their father was saying mean things to them and scaring them.
Okay. Did they seem to be crying or hysterical in any way?
Yes, they were very upset.
Okay. And what did you do in response to that?
I stood there and talked to him for a little while, and tried to figure out what was going on. And then, I mean, things kind of just kept proceeding from there. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of noise from somewhere right now. Okay. So things just started kind of proceeding from there. The father came over after a little while of me talking to them. I noticed that he had pulled out his phone and begun filming us. And then after a little while, he came over and said, "Excuse me, I'm their father. What's going on here?" And I started talking to him, and then without it really being necessary, the other manager came over and kind of interjected himself and started to lead the girls away from us. Started to walk out toward the patio because they were upset. And I told him, "Hey," and his father said, "Excuse me, you can't take my girls away." And I agreed. I told the other manager to stop. And then we all just kind of walked out on the patio. We agreed that it would be better to stand out on the patio because there was a bit of a scene in the dining room at that point.
Are there other customers in the dining room?
Yes.
Okay. When Mr. Bagnell approached you, did he seem to be angry, or did he say anything inappropriate to you?
He didn't seem angry. He didn't say anything inappropriate to me.
And you said he just asked, "Hey, these are my children. Can you tell me what's going on?" Is that how he approached you?
Yeah, I mean,
Objection leading.
Objection overruled.
he said, yeah, I mean, he was just kind of like, "Excuse me, I'm their father. What's going on here?" That I was standing there talking to his daughter. So yeah, that's about what, and I told him, "Sir, they just came up to me and said that there was a problem with their interaction with you, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on."
Okay. Did at that time, did Mr. Bagnell get irate with the situation, or did he get angry with the situation, or do you have a thought?
He didn't seem irate or angry. He seemed maybe a little frustrated, but he didn't seem he wasn't angry with me, or I didn't see him reacting angrily with anybody really. He just seemed kind of frustrated.
Was he yelling at the children when you were standing there, or was he angry with the children? Could you detect
No,
that?
no, there wasn't any raising voices or anything like that.
Okay. And then you described that you then asked the group to step out onto the patio. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't recall if I really asked him to. The other manager kind of led the girls out onto the patio, and then I told him to kind of beat it. I felt like he was getting involved a little bit too much, and I felt like the situation would be fine with me interjecting. And So, yeah, we all just kind of stood out there.
And when you say you all, yourself, Mr. Bagnell, who else stepped outside?
I apologize. I apologize for the phone ringing in the background. I'm not going to answer it. Yeah, it was me and Mr. Bagnell and the two daughters.
And did y'all continue a conversation at that point outside?
I really just stood there listening. The father was talking on the phone. He called his attorney and he called the mother. We didn't really have much of a conversation out there. He told me that he was on a visitation with them and that they were, upset, I guess.
I understand. And how long, or when you were listening to him on the telephone, did he make any threats? Did he sound angry at that time to whoever he was talking to?
Not that I heard.
How long did y'all stay out there on the patio?
If I had to estimate, it was 15 or 20 minutes, maybe.
Okay. In that 15 or 20 minutes, did the children ask you any further questions or anything, or make any other statements to you?
They just told me that they wanted me to stay with them, that they didn't want me to leave.
Okay. Were they in a state of hysterics at that point?
I don't know if I call it hysterics. They were crying. They were upset. I mean,
Right.
but I would think that I wouldn't say hysterics. They were crying.
Okay. And what happened at the end of that conversation, or at the end of the time you were standing outside, which led to, I guess, the end of the 20-minute period? What happened to end that?
The father was able to talk the girls into going back inside. It was kind of cold. So he said, look, we're all standing out here in the cold. Let's all just get back inside. And they seemed to agree to that. So we all went back inside into the restaurant.
Did they sit back down at their table, or did y'all stand up for a more period of time?
Well, the father went back and sat down at the table. We have an open kitchen at the restaurant. So there's a coal fire brick oven out in the view of the guests, and it has like a glass partition in between. And then there's what's called an expediting area where the manager is cutting the pizzas. And so the other manager who had initially led the girls out to the patio was standing there still on quality control. And the girls kind of just stood over there by him. And then the father went back over to his table.
Okay. Is that the last contact you saw between the father and the children?
I don't recall. When I was on my way, while I was standing out on the patio, I told one of my bartenders to have my other manager call the police to come intervene, because I'm obviously not a social worker and I needed to get that situation resolved. So so once the police came, they spoke to the father and the daughters, and I didn't see them interacting between then.
Okay. So it's your testimony you phoned the police?
I did not. No, I told a bartender to have my other manager phone the police.
Okay. So, but it was on your instruction that someone called the police?
Yes.
And did you instruct them on what to tell the police?
No.
Are you aware that anyone reported that there was an assault occurring or anyone was in danger?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. So when the police got there, did your interaction with all of them end, or did you have any further interaction with anyone?
I spoke to the police, and the father told me on the way out. He apologized for what happened. He said, I'm sorry for this disruption. I'm here on a court-ordered visitation. I may have several more of these, so I may be back in here, to try this again another time at a later date. That's about it. Okay.
And I presume that the police officers asked you what happened, and you told them what you just testified here to today?
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Mayhew, I'm sorry. And I again, thank you for your time today. And I know you're busy. Just to wrap up, at any time, did you feel like the children were in danger from their father?
I didn't notice it. I didn't.
Objection calls for opinion.
Objection overruled.
I never noticed any threats. I just felt like it was my duty as a good neighbor to interject myself. You know, that was it. But when children come up to me and say that sort of thing, but I didn't hear him or notice him behaving in a threatening manner.
Right. Did you notice any inappropriate behavior at all from Mr. Bagnell that day?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say how I would react in that situation. I'm not sure that I understand pulling out your phone and filming that sort of situation. But I mean, I'm not in that situation, so it's hard for me to say. Like I said, he wasn't behaving aggressively toward me or toward the situation really. So
I understand. And he was respectful and polite to you when he spoke to you?
yes.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you taking the time today. I'll pass witness, Judge.
Okay, so Mr. Bro, are you going to ask
Yes,
questions?
Your Honor, I will.
You may proceed.
Mr. Mayu, my name is Brian Bro. I represent Stephanie Bolton in this case regarding the interests of the children. Do you know Robert Bagnell?
Not beyond him being a customer in my restaurant that day. I felt like he looked kind of familiar, so I may have seen him in my dining room before, but I don't know him personally. This is the first time I've heard
So
his name.
you are not a friend of his from church?
No.
Do you know about anything about his relationship with a girl?
I know that he's their father, apparently.
Okay. Now you said that you said there was another manager. What was the other manager's name?
Ramon Gutierrez.
Ramon Gutierrez was not the server.
He was not the server, no.
So, did you know that Ramon Gutierrez called the police?
Yes.
You ask him why he called the police?
I didn't ask him why, because I had instructed the bartender to tell him to call the police.
Do you know whether he called the police before or only after you were instructed the bartender to have him do that?
I couldn't say for certain, but I believe it was after.
And it was Ramon Gutierrez who was standing with the children in the kitchen?
Yes.
And did Ramon Gutierrez see what was going on over at the table before you went to the table?
I don't know.
Okay. And you said you did notice that something was going on over at the table.
Yes.
And insofar as what was going on, did you hear what Mr. Bagnell said to the girls, or what the girls said to Mr. Bagnell?
No, I couldn't hear what was being said.
Okay. Did you know that one of the girls, the older girl, Olivia Bagnell, called the police?
No, I didn't know that.
Did you know that there were 2 police calls to the Houston Police Department on October 24th?
No, I didn't know that.
When you talked to, do you know which one Olivia was? Did she tell you that she had called the police?
I don't know which daughter you're referring to, but I don't believe anybody told me that they called the police.
Well, there was one that was older than the other,
Okay.
a little taller than the other.
Okay. No, I don't recall her telling me that she had called the police.
Okay. So as far as the 2 girls are concerned, do you even know their names?
No, I don't. Well, you just told me Olivia was the older one.
And the other one, Stella, did you know that?
No, I still didn't even hear what you said her name was.
Okay. So insofar as if Robert Bagnell said anything inappropriate to the girls at the table before you went over there, you don't know about it because you didn't hear it.
That's correct.
But you did before you went over the table, you were able to tell that the girls were upset.
Yes.
Do you know what caused them to get upset?
No.
Did you ever ask them why they were upset and crying?
Well, they told me that their father was saying mean things to them and that they were scared of him.
Okay.
But no, I don't believe that I ever solicited that from them.
Okay, and was it because they told you they were scared of their father that you told the bartender to have your other manager call the police?
Yes. Well, yes, because of the entire situation.
Well, when we talk about the entire situation, did you understand that the father had done something to the girls to cause them to be afraid of him?
I understood that that's what they were telling me.
Did you have any reason to disbelieve them?
No.
How many police officers came to Grimaldi's that day?
2.
Did they come together or did they come separately?
I think one arrived shortly before the other one. They were in different cars.
Did you know that one officer was responding to a call from Olivia Bagnell and that the other officer was responding to a call from Ramon Gutierrez?
No, I didn't know that.
So you did not know when the police officers got there, did the police officers interview everyone regarding the incident?
I believe so. I couldn't say for certain, but it looked like they did.
Did each officer interview each person, or did one officer do the interviewing, or how did they do the interviewing?
There was one one of the officers was speaking with the girls, and one of the officers was speaking. I'm sorry about that. One of the officers was speaking with the father, and I didn't see if they alternated or not. I was calling my boss also to try to figure out what my protocol was. It was a new one for me also, so I stepped away from the situation a bit when the officers arrived, because I figured they had it under control.
Did the police officers talk to you?
One of them did, yes.
Did they talk to Mr. Gutierrez?
I don't recall.
And you do not know what Ramon Gutierrez told the police officers when he called, either when he was interviewed or when he called the Houston Police Department at your direction?
That's correct. I don't know what he told them.
Okay. After the police officers came, do you know whether or not they told Mr. Bagnell he could continue with his visitation, or whether they terminated the visitation and called the mother and asked her to pick up the girls? You know what the police officers did to diffuse the situation?
So I don't know what their involvement was with the remedy. I know that the mother did show up, and I did see her in the dining room with at least one of the daughters afterwards, but I wasn't sure if that was at the police officer's direction or not. I didn't know if it was the end of the time of the visitation, or if the police officers terminated the visitation or what. I stayed out of all that.
Okay. Do you, so not knowing what the police officers did, do you have any, do you think the police officers acted appropriately in the situation?
It seemed like they did.
And do you think the police officers were concerned about the well-being of the girls?
Yes.
Did you understand why Robert Bagnell was photographing this incident?
I think he said that, so he told me that they had started to give him some resistance on his visitations and that he was going to show the video to their therapist, I believe.
Do you know whether or not he's even gone to see the girl's therapist?
I haven't had any contact with him since that day, sir.
Okay. So you do understand that the police officers, after they interviewed everybody, they cut Mr. Bagnell's visitation short and called the mother to return to Galmaldi, pick the girls up and take them home. You do understand.
Objection, that's asked and answered.
Objection sustained.
Has Mr. Bagnell been back to your restaurant since?
No,
To your knowledge?
not that I'm aware of. I haven't interacted with him there.
Do you know anything about his further visitation with the girl?
No, I don't.
When you, as far as you could observe, were the girls acting appropriately?
It's hard for me to say. Like I said, I didn't hear what the conversation was. I don't know what their situation is. I mean, I'm not inside the mind of a young girl in a situation that's obviously tough, you know. So I don't know if they're acting appropriately or not.
So you don't have any information to suggest that the girls were acting inappropriately.
That's correct.
But you do know that as a result of the interaction between Robert Bagnell and the girls, they were upset and crying.
I know that they were upset and crying. I don't know if it was they said it was as a result of the interaction between him. But like I said, I didn't see the catalyst for it all.
Okay. Did you have any reason to disbelieve them?
No.
When you're dealing with a child and an adult, who do you expect to be the more responsible?
I would expect the adult to be more responsible.
Do you think it appropriate for an adult to cause a child to cry even if he is the father?
I suppose it depends on the circumstances.
As you know the circumstances, did you think it was appropriate for Robert Bagnell to cause his daughters to be upset and to cry?
I didn't hear anything about that situation. You know, I mean, I can remember being a kid and crying at things that my parents told me that I was probably just, you know, being a kid. So it's hard for me to say. I don't know.
In your experiences, while a parent is visiting, having visitation with its children, is it normal for them to call their attorney?
No, that's not normal. I mean, in my experience.
Have you ever had any personal experience regarding child visitation as a result of a divorce or anything
Relevance?
like that?
What's the relevance to that, Mr. Bro?
I'm just wondering whether or not any of his personal experiences has had an impact on what he viewed at this on October 24.
Objection sustained.
We'll pass the witness.
Mr. Ballard, anything else?
Your Honor, I have nothing further, and I would ask that this witness be excused. Thank you again, Mr. Mayhew.
And Mr. Mayhew, how do you spell your last name?
M as in Mary, Ayhew.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayhew, and you can disconnect the call.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So, Mr. Ballard, call your next.
Yes, sir. I'll call Mr. Bagnell, and we'll try to speak up here. Mr. Bagnell, could you state your name, please?
Robert Bagnell.
Judge, on the audio, is that acceptable?
This is Brian Bro. I can barely hear him.
Now, we could barely hear.
Not very good.
All right. Maybe let me try putting Mr. Bagnell's, he's already about 3 foot away. Let me see if I can get him closer to the mic, and I'll step out of the picture.
Okay.
See if that'll work. Maybe just come right here. Okay. Could you state your name, please?
Bagnell.
Is that acceptable, Judge?
It was a little better. Let's see how we can do.
I agree, it was better.
Okay. Mr. Bagnell, you recall the incident that we are discussing in the topic today, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. On October 20th.
Didn't hear any of that.
Okay. Judge, I'm not sure what I should do. He is about 1.5 feet away from the microphone. It might be his English accent. I'm not sure what else I could do.
Right? Is there another laptop or internet connection in your office where you could go to another room?
We were talking, I was asking you about the visitation that the judge set up on October 24th of 2020 at Grimaldi's. You've been here and you've heard our discussion about this today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so what time did you arrive at Grimaldi's? Do you remember?
I believe I was there about 12:20 for a 12:30 visit.
For the 12:30 visit?
Yes.
Okay. Did you arrive prior to the children?
Yes.
How long did you wait until the children got there?
They was on time. They was maybe a couple of minutes before 12:30.
Did you go ahead and get a table?
I got a table where we sat previously, but they didn't want to sit there. They wanted us to sit further in the restaurant for some reason.
Okay. I mean, did you get a table before they got there or right as they got there? Did you request a table?
I had a table, but when they got in, they requested to change the table.
Oh, I see. And did you comply with that request?
Yes.
When they first saw you, were they excited to see you?
No.
Did they say anything in particular?
No, it was very hard to even get them to acknowledge a greeting.
Okay. And at that point, you switched tables. Is that correct?
Well, before they even sat down, they asked could we move tables, and I asked the server, and they gave us another table.
Okay. And what happened once y'all moved the tables? What happened at that point?
We ordered food. The manager, the one thing he got wrong is we did have drinks.
Hold on. We'll go back to what the manager said in a minute, but I just kind of want to get, how did the visitation start? What were y'all talking about? How did it go?
Well, we ordered food, and then whilst we was waiting for the food, I was speaking to Olivia, asking how her volleyball went, and she wouldn't speak. I asked it again, and that's when she turned around and said, "Will you shut up?" And
okay. So she turned around, and that's the only thing she told you in response to your question?
yes.
Okay. And what did you say at that point?
I said, "That's not." Well, I said, "Do you speak to your mother like that?" And that's when they got all upset.
When you said, "Do you speak to your mother like that?" Did you say it in a threatening manner?
No, I didn't. Said it exactly like that. A question.
Okay.
Because it's rude.
I'm sorry?
Because it was rude. Anyone knows you don't speak, especially to your father or your parent, you don't speak like that.
Okay. And then you said they got upset. Could you explain to the court what you mean by they got upset? What happened?
Well, they just started saying, don't speak about our mother. And that's the only thing I said. I didn't say anything else about Stephanie. We actually got the food come. The food came, and I asked them, we'll say grace, and they said they wouldn't answer me. And I said, let's say grace. They said, we want to go to the toilet, the bathroom, which they'd just been to. They'd gone to the bathroom just as they arrived. And then the food came. They ordered lots and lots of food. From the last visitation, this was double the amount of food. There was drinks on the table, iced tea. I mean, you can watch the video. The reason I videoed it is because
I don't need to watch the video, Robert. I want you to tell me what happened. I don't need a video. Just tell me.
Okay. They got up and went to the bathroom. The food was waiting. I was waiting for them. They came back and they went straight and stood with the manager. I knew they was saying something, so I waited, and then obviously kind of put two and two together. I went to the manager and explained I'm the father.
Okay, let me stop you right there for a second. Prior to the girls going to the bathroom, did you threaten the children in any way?
No.
Did you threaten to discipline them?
No.
Did you raise your voice at them?
No.
Did you tell them you were going to harm them or their mother?
No, of course not.
Did you say anything inappropriate to these children about their mother?
No, I told you the only thing I said about the mother was, would you speak to your mother like that? It's the only time I mentioned the word mother.
That's okay. Do you have an opinion as to why they were upset?
Yes, I do.
What is your opinion, sir?
They are programmed before they arrive, and then when they're in the bathroom, they're communicating with somebody, and the whole thing was staged.
Okay. Now, you heard the testimony of Mr. Mayhew a moment ago. Once the girls went to Mr. Mayhew, which he described, did that take place? Was his account of what happened next correct?
Yes.
You did go up and speak to Mr. Mayhew?
Yeah, I went to explain to and to ask actually what, I knew why the girls weren't sitting down, but I wanted to hear from him and explain to him I'm actually the dad.
Okay. Were you ever rude or inappropriate to him?
No.
Okay. And he described a scenario where y'all stepped outside for a minute. Is that the case?
Well, I was speaking to him. The other manager led the girls out the back. And that's when I went out there. I actually said to the manager, you can't be taking my girls out of the restaurant without my permission. And I'm not in an angry way, just to tell them I'm the father. You can't do that. It's wrong.
Okay. And did they keep the children in the restaurant, or is that when y'all went outside?
No, they went outside. We went outside.
And he described y'all being out there for about 15 or 20 minutes. Was that about right?
No, I would have said only about 10 minutes because it was very cold.
And at that time, did you make a phone call?
I attempted to call you, but didn't get through.
Okay. And after that, did you try to call their mother, Mrs. Bolton?
No.
Okay. Shortly after that, the police arrived. Is that correct?
Well, we agreed to go in. I knew the girls weren't going to continue eating. I asked, can we box the food? The manager says, because of COVID, I have to do it. And I started boxing the food. And then next moment, the police arrived.
And did they question you about what was going on?
Yes.
Did you explain to them what was going on?
I explained to them my side. I said, if you want a second opinion, go and speak to the manager.
Okay. Did at any time this police officer tell you that you were under arrest?
No.
Did he ever instruct you to leave the restaurant?
No.
Did he ever threaten you to place you under arrest for any other offenses that you may or may not have committed?
No.
Did he scold you or admonish you in any way of any of your behavior that you exhibited or he felt you exhibited?
No.
What did he tell you then?
He just asked the situation. He went and got the girls, sat them down. He actually scolded Olivia for speaking to me like that.
Objection here, Steve.
It's on video.
And then,
I'm sorry, did I get a ruling on that?
Objection overruled.
and then, after he spoke to the girls, did the police officer come and speak to you again?
He spoke to the girls whilst I was there and to me. Then he went to the manager. Then he came back to me to explain. The manager confirmed what I had told him.
Okay, so what did the police officer do at that point?
To be honest, he moved me to speak over here, and Stephanie came in a couple of minutes later.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you said. What did you say there?
He took me to speak away from the girls.
Okay.
And as we were speaking, he had the other officer standing with the girls, and then Stephanie arrived.
Okay. And did he tell you what the children had said, or did he tell you that you had committed some kind of offense or breach of the peace or anything?
No. The only thing he said was when Stephanie arrived, he says, your visitation will end now because the mother's arrived.
Okay. Did you take that as he was ordering you to terminate the visitation?
Not ordering me, just sort of like saying, well, now the mother's here, she can take the girls and it will end this situation.
Okay. Did you receive any citations?
No.
Were you issued a criminal trespass warning for Grimaldi's Pizza?
No.
Were you at the end of this admonished in any way of your behavior or anything about your behavior at the restaurant with your children?
No, as the manager said, I went to apologize for what had happened and left with my food, and that was it.
Okay, but the police officers specifically, they didn't admonish you about your behavior or tell you that you had committed some crime or were close to committing a crime or anything?
No, they knew the situation.
Okay. Was that the end of the visitation?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Robert, I want to make sure that the judge understands the complete picture of how that visitation went. One thing I want to ask you, you can agree, I think we can all agree that the visitation did not go well. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You are still interested in visitation with your children, aren't you?
Certainly am.
Okay. Is there anything regarding that visitation session that you have not been able to tell the judge or you would like the judge to know about that particular visitation that you have not said?
Well, I mean, I actually think why don't people look at the video and the photographs?
Okay, Robert, I'm not talking about videos or photographs. I'm talking about the judges here, and I want to know if there's anything you think the judge needs to know that I didn't ask you about that visitation. You understand that they're alleging, you've read the petition, the statement that the mother has filed about that visitation, haven't you?
Yeah, but obviously I wasn't thrown out of the restaurant. If I was behaving like that, I would have been thrown out of the restaurant.
Robert, I understand. I'm asking you if you understand what Mrs. Bolton's position of what took place at that restaurant at that visitation is. You understand what her position is, right?
No, I don't.
You haven't read her statement of what took place or what was filed with the court. You never read that? You don't know what they're saying happened?
Yeah, I know she says some things, but it's not quite exactly. She had communicated with me whilst I was in the restaurant that she had communicated with the girls, but then communicated with me telling me she can't get hold of the girls. But the girls were wound up and just overreacted when they came in. Like I told you, it was staged. They did all that food, and the girls reacted to a comment not a comment, me asking about trying to make conversation with them.
I understand that, but Robert, you understand that the children's mother is alleging that it was your fault that they got excited. Did you threaten your children?
Oh, you've heard, I didn't threaten the children at all.
Okay, that's what I'm asking you. Is there anything about what took place that you think Judge Leedy should know?
I think it's fairly obvious if you listen to the statements of the truth.
And do you believe
the girls overreacted? It's simple as that. Because they wound up. It's not the first time this has happened. Everyone knows. Every visitation I've had or attempted in the last so many months have been ruined because of other people.
Okay. Do you believe that Mr. Mayhew's testimony today was true and correct and accurate?
Everything except that the drinks were already on the table.
Okay, but forget about drinks. Drinks aren't very important. We're talking about what he observed. Do you believe that that is a correct statement of the facts?
Well, he observed, I never raised my voice, never showed any anger or anything.
Objection, misstatement of fact. He didn't
I'll
testify, he didn't
remember the
raise his voice.
testimony. Go ahead, Mr. Bell.
Thank you. Mr. Bagnell, you heard the testimony of Mr. Mayhew. He was correct and accurate in those statements, wasn't he?
Yes.
In everything that he testified to, is that correct?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, Mr. Bro?
Yes, Mr. Bagnell, did you know that the court directed you to visit with the children's counselor and to participate in counseling?
Which counselor are you talking about, please?
The children's counselor.
Yeah, but when we was at court, the court ordered me to go to a different counsellor.
And then when the counselor was changed, you
Well,
know
no,
why
I contacted the counsellor who was at the time when the court ordered, and then I was making plans to meet her. Then when I called her, she said she's not dealing with this after speaking to Stephanie, and we don't know why.
and that was after speaking to you, wasn't it?
No. She quoted after speaking to Stephanie.
How many times did you speak to Mrs. Perlon?
Twice.
Once by yourself, then she talked to Stephanie, and then she said she told you that she wasn't going to counsel the girls any further. Is that true?
That's correct.
And did you find out afterwards that Miss Perlon was replaced by Kim Slatvik in College Station?
I've visited Kim 3 times, yes.
You've been to see her?
3 times, office visits.
And when did you have those office visits with Kim Slatvik?
The last one was 2 days ago. I'd have to look at my diary to see the other dates.
And was it a week or 2 or a month, or approximately when?
Can I look at my phone and I've got the there?
Yes, you can look at your phone. I just wanted to get.
Okay, it's in the other room. I haven't got the exact dates right now, but I can tell you the first time was like within a week of them going for their first visitation. I probably went back 2 weeks later, and I was there, I believe would have been the 15th this month, 14th maybe.
The 16th was yesterday. And did you visit with her in person or via the phone?
15th. No, in person.
And did she talk to you about the counseling that she had been doing with the girl?
Only she can't, you know, she won't reveal too much because it's client confidentiality, but she will say so much of the a little bit what's going on, how the girls have been, like regarding today, the stress that Olivia's under having to appear in court.
Did she talk to you about what you could do to make the visitations go better?
We discussed the 15th this month about, I approached her the best, for my idea was having a visitation with her and the girls, and she said she can't do that because of conflict, and she's suggesting going to that Rango, Fort Rango, is it?
Okay. Did you talk about Michael Weaver as a supervisor, supervised visitation?
No.
You know, the court did set up provisions for you to have supervised visitation with Michael Weaver, right? Pastor Michael Weaver?
Is it pastor? I believe he's I don't know if he's a pastor. He works at the school.
He used to work at the school, didn't he? Does he still work at the school?
I saw him there last time I was at school.
Have you ever talked to Michael Weaver?
Yes.
Since he agreed to be a supervisor, to supervise your visitation?
No.
Do you have any objection to him as a
Yes.
person to supervise your visitation?
Yes.
And will you tell us why?
Believe it needs to be somebody who's neutral and not placed by Stephanie.
Has he ever told you that he preferred Stephanie over you?
No.
So why do you think that he would be prejudicially in favor of Stephanie over you?
Judge, I'm going to object to the relevance of the line of questioning as it relates to my motion to strike.
Objections overruled. But you restate the question, Mr. Burrow.
Yes. Do you have any reason to believe that Pastor Michael Weaver would be prejudicial in Stephanie's favor over you?
I cannot hear.
Do you have any reason to believe that Pastor Michael Weaver would be prejudicial in favor of Stephanie Bolton over you?
I believe there'll be a conflict of interest, like the same as the counsellor.
What's the conflict of interest? She doesn't go to that church. She knew him through the school as you knew him through the school. He knew both of you through the school, and she does not go to his church. Neither do you.
But he works at the school, and isn't she on the board of the school?
He doesn't work at the school anymore. He used to work in the school, but he hasn't worked there for some period of time.
A short period of time, because the last time I was there, I saw him.
Well, he's a full-time pastor at community, I think it's community church in Belleville. Do you know where that
Okay.
is?
No,
So do you still believe that he has a conflict of interest? And that he would be
Yes.
prejudicial to you over Stephanie?
I didn't say that.
Well, what conflict of interest does he have?
He may have heard more of the stories from one of the parties.
So you don't know whether he has a conflict of interest or not.
Well, obviously he's got a connection with Stephanie for knowing her from being at the school.
And you know him through the school also, don't you?
I went to visit a different principal and he came in to be a witness of some documentation he was shown.
So did you know that he used to be the dean of the students at the school?
I never heard that.
What did you think his position was at the school?
Vice principal?
And
Or the
when you met him, how many times have you met Pastor Michael Weaver?
I believe twice.
And has he ever been inappropriate in his conversations with you?
No,
But you think that he might have some conflict of interest, but you don't know of any actual conflict of interest that he has.
no,
Did you attend your visitation on November 14 last month?
Objection, relevance.
Actions overruled.
Mr. Bagnell, did you attend your visitation on November 14?
I just answered no,
Can you tell us why?
because I didn't feel it was be right after the last visitation issues. It was the wrong environment with the wrong people. That's why we're suggesting the counsellor or Rango.
And did you attend your visitation that was set up with Michael Weaver on November 28th?
No,
And did you tell anybody that on November 14th, did you tell anybody that you weren't going to participate in visitation on November 14th?
Mr. Ballard.
Did you ever tell Stephanie that you weren't going to show up for your supervised visitation on November 14th?
No,
How about on November 28th? Did you communicate with Stephanie through Talking Parents, right?
yes,
You could have told Stephanie that you weren't going to show up for your November 14 visitation through Talking Parents. Is that right?
I didn't think we were having any visitations till after this court. This was the whole point of coming to the court.
Well, did you receive a copy of the court's direction for a visitation on November 12th?
Yeah, but that was
December 12th,
November the 12th.
last Saturday.
This was the same ones that was that said about Grimaldis, yes?
The court issued a directive on Do you have copies of the exhibits that were attached to Stephanie Bolton's summary of arguments and exhibits?
Not in front of me now.
Did you read the December 9 direction of the court regarding your December 12 visitation?
I don't believe I received one. I got something kind of yesterday, last night, and this morning.
Okay, but you did not receive a copy of the court December 9, 2020 direction regarding your December 12 visitation?
We didn't receive anything on December the 9th.
Or after that date regarding your December 12 visitation?
No, as I just said, I only received last night was something came through.
Did you know that you were supposed to have visitation on November 14, November 28, and December 12?
Well, I remember when the courts gave the 5 visitations, but after the second one at Grimaldi's, as a result of us being in court today, we're waiting on a decision to where to go next. Not to these visitations where it will reoccur.
So you haven't seen anything about the court's direction for your December 12 mediation? Sure, your December 12 visitation.
Maybe going back a few months, there was
No, I'm talking about a few days ago.
No, I haven't.
And that visitation was supposed to be with Olivia and Stella, supervised by Michael Weaver at Denny's in Brenham, Texas.
Not for December the 12th. No, I didn't know about that.
Okay. So you are saying the reason you didn't notify anyone that you were going to either attend or cancel the visitation because you never knew that one had been scheduled for you?
Not for December the 12th, no.
And how about on November 14? Were you in Houston or were the Woodlands or even in Texas on that day?
I'd have to check my diary.
Did you not take a plane trip to Michigan?
I can't remember the date, but I was in Michigan in November.
And how long were you in Michigan?
I think 20 days.
So from the 14th through the 28th, you were in Michigan.
I'd have to look up the dates I flew. I don't have it here.
Did you tell anyone that you were going to be in Michigan for 20 days and you wouldn't be able to do any visitation during that period of time?
So I didn't hear that.
Did you do that or not do that?
So I didn't hear what you said. Did I do what?
During the period of time that you were in Michigan, did you tell Stephanie, either by phone or through talking parents, that you weren't going to be able to do your visitation during November because you were in Michigan?
No, because I was with talking to the counsellor who recommended waiting on the court date for not completing the visitation dates until today's court.
Okay. And you just never got anything about the December 12th visitation?
As I just said, no.
So I'm not sure if Mr. Bro is disconnected. Mr. Ballard, anything else?
No, Judge, I don't have anything further.
All right, so Mr. Ballard, do you have any other witnesses?
I have no further witnesses.
And
The judge, did Mr. Bro disconnect?
I don't know if he did. So Mr. Mahan, do you have a witness you want to call?
I do have one question from Mr. Ballard, since, and not Mr. Ballard, Mr. Bagnell, that I thought Mr. Bro was going to ask, and I don't know where Mr. Bro went, but I'll ask it if that's okay. If you would indulge me.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Bagnell, did you receive a email or a copy of the court's email from Stephanie through Talking Parents regarding the December 12th visitation?
I don't recall.
You're under oath, you know that, right?
Yeah, I'm not lying. I said I don't recall. I'll look it up now.
So would it surprise you to know that the Talking Parents app lets the other party know when you do not answer or open an email?
Objection, Judge, that calls for speculation. Objection to relevance. Objection to having two people cross-examine the same witness.
All right, well, we can hear from Ms. Bolton if she's called as a witness, so,
First, I'd like to call Olivia first, Judge.
okay. And,
I just have to go get her.
okay, you go get Olivia.
She's outside, so just a moment.
All right, Mr. Mahan, you may proceed.
Judge, I'm sorry to interrupt, but may I get something on the record, please?
Okay,
I want, on behalf of my client, object to having the child, the subject of the suit, to testify in this matter. I think it's poor decision. I think it's harmful to the best interest of the child. I think it endangers her emotional and physical welfare and could really set back the parent-child relationship. And having this child testify here today, and I want that on the record, and I want it to be clear to everybody involved. This is the reason why we're having these problems, because you're involving the child in this place at this time that this child has no reason to be into, listening to mother and father fight like this. And Judge, that's what I wanted to be on the record.
all right, so that's on the record, Mr. Ballard, and Mr. Mahan, you may proceed.
Olivia, would you state your name for the court, please?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't hear.
We can't hear her. I cannot hear her.
Can you speak a little louder and pull yourself up a little closer to the computer, please? There. Can you speak? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you speak a little louder?
Yes.
Okay. So would you state your name for the court, please?
Olivia Bagnell.
And I can't. So if we can't hear her, then we're gonna have to move on to the next witness. So I don't know if it's the microphone needs to be turned up or she needs to get closer, but cannot hear what she's saying.
Olivia Bagnell.
Is that better?
Not really.
Judge, maybe it would be more appropriate for you to do the interview in chambers with Ms. Bagnell.
Okay. Well, I know I spoke with children in chambers previously, so.
Not since the Grimaldi incident, Judge.
Well, if you want to have some testimony, we can, now's the time to do it, but she's got to speak up or we got to be able to hear her. If we can't, we'll have to move on. So
Okay.
try one more time.
Okay, Olivia, you're going to have to speak really loud for me.
Olivia
Speak.
Bagnell.
Okay. And how old are you, Olivia?
13.
And do you know the difference between telling the truth and telling a lie?
Yes.
What happens when you tell a lie?
It's not going to work to hear Olivia, so we have to move on. Who'd be your next witness, Mr. Mahan?
Stephanie Bolton, Judge.
So since we're using the same
I can try
same
another.
laptop, I don't know if if Olivia was just speaking too softly, or if it's something with the laptop, but Miss Bolton, you're gonna have to speak up so we can hear.
Okay, I'm gonna try to log into another computer.
And we can't barely hear what she's saying right now, so.
She said she's going to try to log in through a different computer, Judge. Apparently the one she's using doesn't, the audio is not as well, doesn't work as well. Can you turn the microphone up?
It's up all the way. Just give me one moment. I'm logging in right now.
I can hear that perfectly, Judge. Can you hear that?
What you just said, I could hear fine.
Okay, so if you'll just speak clearly and sit closer to the computer.
Okay.
All right. State your name for the record, please.
Stephanie Marie Bolton.
Now, I can't hear that.
Stephanie Marie Bolton.
I can hear that.
Stay right where you are, and we'll go from there. So let's go back to October 24th, 2020. What happened on that day?
We got ready and we went to Visitation.
Okay, you're going to need to speak up loud so everybody can hear you.
I got the girls ready in the morning and we left the house and we went to Visitation.
And where was the visitation?
At Grimaldi's.
And that was pursuant to the judge's order, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, prior to that time, had you had any conversations with the children regarding their visits with their dad?
No. In fact, I told them that I hoped that this one was a great success.
And how did or what you told them that it was, you thought it was, or you hoped it would be a great success, is that correct?
Yes. Otherwise, we did not speak about it.
Okay. And why did you not speak about it?
Because we talked about lots of other things on the drive to Grimaldi's.
But hadn't you and I had a conversation about not alienating the children regarding their father? Is that correct?
Yes.
And so your testimony to the day is that you hadn't done anything as far as trying to alienate the children. Is that right, with regard to their father, Robert Bagnell?
Yes.
And so what happened after you dropped the children off at about 12:30, is that correct?
Well, we were actually early. It was 12:25 when I dropped the girls off.
Okay, and did you go into the restaurant or did you just let them out at the front door?
No, they got out it loops around, and so the girls got out and then I drove away.
So you didn't see Mr. Bagnell?
He was standing at the door.
Did you talk to him?
No.
And what happened after that?
I left, and then 34 minutes later, Olivia called me and she was hysterical and she said that she had just called.
Objection, hearsay.
Objection sustained.
Did when Olivia called you, she was at the restaurant, is that correct?
Yes.
And was she upset?
Yes.
Was she crying?
Yes.
Did she indicate why she was crying?
She was very hard to understand.
Did you talk to Stella?
No.
What did you do then after receiving the call?
The police officer then got on the telephone and told me to come to the restaurant.
So when Olivia called you at 34 minutes into the visit, you also talked to the police officer?
Yes.
And she informed you to come to the restaurant?
It was a man, but yes, he told
Or
me
he?
to the restaurant.
Okay. And so did you do that?
Yes, and then the police officer met me outside.
And with the children?
No, they were inside.
And what did he tell you?
He didn't explain much. He just asked for my information. He got a copy of my driver's license. And then he asked me to wait there. Then he went back inside. And then it was about 12, 13 minutes later, he came back outside and told me I could come in to see the girls.
And so did you go back did you go into the restaurant?
Yes, then into the restaurant to get Olivia and Stella.
And how long were you in the restaurant?
At that time, maybe 2 minutes.
And did you talk to Mr. Bagnell?
No,
Did you see him in there?
I did.
Okay, so you got the children and you left after the police officer called you and said,
No,
come get the
he
girls.
asked us to wait at the car.
Okay. So you went outside and you waited until when?
It must have been another 15 minutes or so. They were in talking. I don't know who they were talking to. They were in the police officers were in the restaurant, and then they came back out, and then that's when they gave me a little card with their information on it and the case number.
What did you do after that?
The girls and I left. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Stella asked the police officer if she could go in and give the server Ramon, that's what she thought he was, a hug. So the police officer walked inside with us and Stella hugged Ramon. And then he told Stella how sorry he was for what had just happened.
Objection, hearsay.
Objection sustained.
And then after that, the girls and I left. Stella and I walked back to the truck and the girls and I left.
Now, the judge ordered the girls to, and Mr. Bagnell to.
Cannot hear you, Mr. Mahan.
The judge ordered the girls and Mr. Bagnell into counseling. Is that correct?
Yes,
And have the girls been attending counseling?
yes.
When did they first start going to the College Station Christian Counseling Center?
I'm sorry, I have to log back in. That was the very,
We cannot hear what Ms. Bolton is saying. You have to speak into the microphone.
okay, just one moment, please.
Does October 9th ring a bell?
Yes,
And the children have seen either in individual sessions or joint sessions with Kim. Is it, how do you pronounce that? Her last name, is it Svatak?
I'm sorry, I don't know how.
Okay. But Kim S is their counselor, is that correct?
Yes,
And you have been paying the bills for the counseling, is that right?
yes,
Now, the court ordered Mr. Bagnell to pay half of that, is that correct?
yes,
And you've submitted those bills to him?
yes.
Objection, relevance.
I'll allow it to come in just on the, trying to globally get a plan in place.
Has
Oh.
Mr. Bagnell reimbursed you as required by the court order for the counseling? Ms. Bolton?
I don't know what she said.
No,
Did you say no?
yes, no,
Have you asked him to?
yes. He's been given all the invoices.
Through Talking Parents?
Yes,
Okay. Now, I just want to clarify one or two things here. Since the judge set up the supervised or the visits back in October, have you done anything to alienate the children with regard to Mr. Bagnell?
No, I did everything that the court asked me to do. The counseling,
Can you lean a little closer to the computer, please? Thank you.
no, I've not done anything. I've taken them to counseling on a weekly basis. The court asked for recommendations, and I gave the 2 recommendations to help support visitation. And so I provided him with all the information in regards to appointments for counseling. So no.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes, sir. Ms. Bolton, I just kind of want to be clear. You're not saying, and maybe I misunderstood, I could hardly hear, but you're not saying that Mr. Bagnell's not doing the counseling, are you?
I don't know if I know he participated in one. Other
Okay.
than there's been no verification. Kim verified one appointment.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask this a different way. Is it your contention that he's not seeing the counselor?
I know he participated in one.
Are you contending that he has missed any? I'm a little confused as to why we're talking about the counselor, unless you're saying that he hasn't participated, but I don't think I hear you saying that. Am I correct? I'm not talking about the billing. We can talk about that separate. I'm talking about participating.
I know he participated in one. Kim sent an email saying he participated in one that I am aware of.
Okay, I'm not asking you what you think he participated in. I'm asking you, are you?
The counselor sent an email.
No, ma'am, I'm going to ask you a question. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Is it your contention today that Mr. Bagnell is not seeing the counselor like he's supposed to? That's simple. Yes or no?
Seeing Kim?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know.
Okay. So I can take it by I don't know means you are not saying that he's not participating, right?
He participated in one.
All right. Objection non-responsive.
Yep.
The invoices you're claiming that Robert didn't pay, you understand that you don't have a motion filed today to claim that, do you? You understand that, right?
Regards to the invoices.
Cannot hear what you're saying.
I
Move closer.
Okay. I don't know if there was a motion. I do know that the invoices were sent.
Okay. The invoices, can you read these if I show them up? Is this the invoice that you're referring to, ma'am? Can you see that?
It's very blurry.
Okay.
But
I can't see it.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the invoices that you sent Robert with you right now that you could refer to?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder, could you just refer to those real quick? I just want to ask you a couple of questions about them since we're talking about them. Where's the orange man?
Scott, are you talking about our Exhibit 10?
I am. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's the Exhibit 10. I'll just judge if you want to reference Mr. Mahan's filing. Exhibit 10 is the document I'm referring to. I believe it is the same billing that Mrs. Bolton is talking about. I just want to, with Mrs. Bolton, I want to be clear that we're talking about the same document. Do you know what Exhibit 10 is, Ms. Bolton? Is that the same thing you're talking about, sending Mr. Bagnell the records? Or do you know?
Yes, I have it. Yes.
Okay. So are those the records that you sent to Mr. Bagnell?
Yes.
Okay. Could I direct your attention to the entry on November 30th, invoice number 8384? Do you see that on there? It's on page 1 or like right in the middle.
For November 30th?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, who attended that session?
I don't know if Olivia went first or if Stella went first.
Could that possibly be you going to that session?
No.
No? I'd like to go rip that phone out of the wall. I'd like to ask you about October 29th of 2020. It's at the top on page 2.
Okay. Thursday, October 29th. Yes.
Okay. Do you know whose session that was?
The girls spoke to Kim briefly, and then I spoke to her.
Okay. Would it surprise you that on Kim's actual invoice that the record says that it's a parent session with mom? Would that surprise you if it said that?
No, because she sent that to me, like I said.
Ma'am, I'm just asking you, would it surprise you? It's a yes or no question.
No, because I participated in that.
Okay, unresponsive, non-responsive objection.
It's sustained after the answer of either yes or no.
Okay, the session which occurred on October 16th, could I draw your attention to that session, please?
Okay.
Do you recall who had that session?
Yes, all three of us.
Would it surprise you that on Miss Kim's invoice that it says parent session with mom phone call? Would that surprise you if that's what her records indicate?
No, because we all participated.
I'm sorry, ma'am, non-responsive, yes or no?
I was included, so it's a parent session because I'm included. Yes.
And again, on October 7th, could you direct me to who had that session?
The initial one, that again, that was all three. So that's a parent. So yes, it would say parent session.
It would say parent session, and that occurred online, didn't it?
Yes, because she met all the girls.
So would you agree with me that you were asking Mr. Bagnell to pay the price and the fees of you attending these sessions as well? Is that a fair statement?
I didn't ask him to pay for the sessions that I participated in, the ones that Olivia.
Well, you gave him exhibit number 10, and those are parent sessions. You just admitted it. Aren't you asking him to pay for sessions that you attended?
But Olivia and Stella participated.
Aren't you asking him to pay the sessions that you attended? Is that true?
Yes, because Olivia and Stella participated as well.
Would you be willing to resubmit these bills only to the sessions that applied to Stella and Olivia?
So he's only going to pay for sessions that they attend on their own?
Well, no, ma'am, I'm asking you if you would be willing to submit the bills indicating only Stella's and Olivia's attendance. I'm not asking you what you understand it to be. I'm not asking you anything other than a yes or no. Yes or no. That's it. That's all I'm asking you.
Yes.
Thank you. During the visitation that occurred on October 24th, did you attempt to text one of the girls?
Olivia texted me, yes.
Did you attempt to text one of the girls?
Ask and answer objection.
Judge, it's not asked and answered. I asked a question. I didn't get an answer. She said,
Just gave you the
Olivia
answer,
texted me.
Scott.
She said, Olivia
you didn't.
texted me. I asked, did she text Olivia? I believe that she's interfered with the visitation. And I want to know, I'll subpoena your records. Answer the question.
And so direct the witness to answer the question, but with all the objecting going back and forth, there's not going to be much of a record. So just have Mr. Bowd restate your question and Ms. Bolton can answer it.
During the visit with the girls, during the Grimaldi's visit on October 24th, did you attempt to text one of the girls? Yes or no?
Did you hear the question?
Is my audio bad?
I answered yes.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Mahan?
Judge, I just have a couple of follow-up questions. With regard to the text that you sent Olivia, were you sending that text to her, or were you responding to a text she had sent to you?
Responding to a text that Olivia sent to me.
Can you speak up?
Responding to a text message that Olivia sent to me.
Just so everybody heard, you said responding to a text that Olivia sent to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did everybody hear that? Or as I know they did. With regard to the unpaid bills, have you asked Mr. Ballard to reimburse you for the expenses regarding the children's counseling as ordered by the court?
Yes.
Has he done so?
No.
I'm quite sure she didn't ask me. I'm sure you meant Mr. Bagnell, right?
I beg your pardon, Mr. Ballard, I'm sorry. I meant Mr. Bagnell.
I'm sure you
Mr.
did.
Bagnell, object to the sidebar remarks, Judge. Ms. Bolton, so we can clarify things, you've asked your ex-husband, Mr. Bagnell, who is ordered by the court to pay half of the children's counseling expenses. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you speak up?
Yes.
Okay, and has he done so?
No.
Has he told you why?
Until I can prove that Olivia and Stella are in sessions alone, he will not reimburse any money.
Objection, non-responsive.
Is that what he told you?
Yes.
Okay.
Judge, I'm going to object to non-responsive. That's not the question he asked.
Objections overruled.
That's the witness, Judge.
All right, Mr. Ballard?
Yes, Ms. Bolton, when did you submit the counseling records to Mr. Bolton or Bagnell?
I submitted them to him, I think on 4 occasions.
When did you exhibit or submit to him exhibit number 10?
With the latest one.
Well, the only thing that I have is exhibit number 10 that you filed in this case. So that's what we've been talking about. We agreed that that's what we were talking about. When did you send exhibit number 10 there?
Yesterday. I've submitted invoices to him on Talking Parents throughout the girls' counseling.
Okay, but the exhibit that your attorney has filed on your behalf that you are complaining of, that you and I agreed that were the billing statements, you gave these to him yesterday and you're complaining you didn't pay him by today?
Objection, Judge. That's not what she, Judge, that's not what she said.
Then let me clarify.
That's not what she said, and you know it. She said, she just testified that she had given him throughout the counseling session, the bills through Talking Parents.
As testimony from the attorney.
No, that is not testimony. That is what she said.
Stop. I mean, like I said, if anybody wants a record, the last minute or so, forget about it. So I think Mr. Ballard I don't even remember who's doing the questioning right now. Is it Mr. Ballard or Mr. Mahan?
I think it's Mr. Ballard.
Okay, so Mr. Ballard, just restate your question.
Okay.
Go over it one more time.
Okay. Ms. Bolton, I want to direct your attention once again to exhibit number 10. Do you know the document to which I'm referring?
Yes.
That appears to be an invoice for College Station Christian Counseling. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
That is the same document I referred to you earlier and asked questions about individual and counseling sessions. Isn't that correct, ma'am?
Yes.
This is the same document that you claim that you submitted to Robert Bagnell. Isn't that correct?
The updated one.
This is objection non-responsive.
Objection, Judge. Just because he doesn't like her answer doesn't mean that it's
It's not
non-responsive.
responsive. It's not an answer.
he
Did she
asked-
send exhibit?
He
Who's asking the questions here? There's no wonder there's not a record.
he asked her.
And
if
just let
she-
Mr. Ballard ask the question and let Ms. Bolton answer the question, and we'll go back and forth till 5 o'clock if we have to, but just let her answer and then let people follow up.
I think she's already answered it. Is the
Well,
point?
and I
though.
just said to let people ask the question. Stop
Okay.
interrupting.
All right, Judge. Apologize.
So go, Mr. Ballard.
Thank you. This exhibit 10 is the bill that you submitted to Mr. Bagnell to pay recently, isn't it?
We did not hear her answer. So
Yes.
if Miss Bolton, you got to get closer to the microphone. The next time we cannot hear you, we're going to stop this whole hearing. So go, Mr. Ballard.
Is this the document you submitted and you claimed it was unreimbursed?
Yes.
And ma'am, didn't you send this document just, what day did you send this to him?
Yesterday.
Okay. So it's a little too early. Wouldn't you agree that he hasn't paid this bill that you just testified you sent to him? Isn't that correct?
Yes. That's the total bill.
Thank you. Judge, I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Mahan.
Judge, I just have a few questions. So, Ms. Bagnell, on October 7th, you went and saw Kim, is that right?
Yes.
There was a bill for $135. Did you
Yes.
send that bill to Mr. Bagnell?
Yes.
On October 9th, there was a bill for $125 for a visit that included a session with Olivia and Stella. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was that bill submitted to Mr. Ballard?
I need to go in there because it looks like he's checked out.
Yes. Yes.
And was, okay, and it was submitted, when did you submit it?
That on 10/13.
Okay, and then on October 15th, there was a session with Olivia and Stella, and that session was $125, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you submit that bill to Mr. Ballard?
Robert. Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bagnell.
Yes.
So if I was to go through every one of these invoices that are listed in the Exhibit 10 that include payments or, include sessions that are for Olivia and Stella only, are you telling the court that you have timely submitted all those to Mr. Ballard? Is that correct?
Yes, to Robert.
I'm
yes.
sorry, to Mr. Bagnell.
Yes.
And you didn't submit them just yesterday. You submitted them when they were incurred. Is that correct?
Yes.
And has he paid any of them?
No.
Okay, so if I was to go through all of these on October the 20th and October or November the 2nd and November the 9th and November the 30th, would your testimony be the same, that you have submitted individual invoices for each one of those to Mr. Ballard and he has still refused to pay them? Is that correct?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes. Ms. Bolton, do you believe moving forward that the visitation should be supervised?
Yes.
Would you be agreeable to the visitation taking place at Fort Ringo, which is a supervised visitation facility?
Yes, it was my suggestion.
Okay. And I'm just asking because I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of what this is going to come down to. Would you be willing to bring the children to visitation on maybe a Saturday and a Sunday of the second and fourth weekend of the month, something of that nature.
Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday and or Saturday or. I'm not, I don't want to box you in or rule it out to each one of these. I'm just saying what your willingness would be.
The girls participate in church activities on Sunday.
Okay.
And they
Okay.
also do horse riding on Sunday. I would
Okay.
prefer not to do Sunday.
So maybe Saturday would be an appropriate time that you would agree to?
On the second and fourth Saturdays?
I think second and fourth, yes, ma'am. And I understand that works with your other request, at least at this point.
Yes.
Okay. Would you be willing to agree to each of the children visiting separately with their father at the Fort Ringo?
No.
Can you explain to the court why you don't want them to be separated when they visit with him?
I think that they need to be together. They're sisters.
Could you, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that question, Scott. Are you saying that they would both go there and have separate sessions while they're both there? Or are you saying that they would, one would go and then another one would go on a different day or a different time?
And to James, what I do is just cut to it. I believe what I would like to say is if we did visitation at Fort Ringo, that maybe for the first couple of visitations, it would be appropriate to do Olivia, then one, and then Stella after the Olivia visit on the same date. I wouldn't think it would be appropriate to drive on different days. Just maybe split the two up, an hour here, an hour there, or 2 hours and 2 hours, or an hour and a half and an hour and a half for a couple of visits, and then bring the girls together when the relationships, if it's one relationship that's not bonding as well as the other, we could identify that. That would be my question to Ms. Bolton to clarify.
Thank you.
And Ms. Bolton, if I understand, you raised an objection because you want them to be together, and that's an honest answer, and that's all I'm asking for at that point with that. That's your position?
Yes.
But as far as doing the visitation at the Fort Ringo, you would not object to that?
No.
Okay. Judge, I'll pass witness.
Mr. Mahan?
Judge, I don't have any other questions.
Okay. And then Mr. Mahan, any other witnesses?
We could try with Olivia again if you'd like, Judge.
Well, and what I'm still trying to get something put together, going forward to getting a visitation schedule put together. So I think at this point, we can look at something with the Fort Ringo placement. So I don't need to hear from Olivia today.
Okay.
So what I'll do is order that both parents are to make application with the Fort Ringo Center by December 28th. And I'm sure they have some type of application process, paperwork that has to be done. So both parents get that completed by the 28th, and see if the Fort Ringo can schedule visitations on the 2nd and 4th. So that would be January 9th and January 23rd. Again, I don't know what their schedule is like, so we're just going to have to see what's available. But
And Judge, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I took the liberty of calling Mr. Ringo and discussed that issue with him. He said that would be appropriate, that he did have those, the first and the, or pardon me, the 2nd and the 4th, which is why we suggested that in addition to the other issues.
did they suggest a time, or do they know what times they have available?
They did not. They just said when they contact them, they'll try to plug in a time. He understood that it would be on the weekends. He didn't indicate that Saturday or Sunday was either better or worse for him.
Okay, well, let's shoot for Saturday since the girls have something on Sunday. And so again, so I'll have both parties are ordered to get the applications. If they'll each pay an application fee, their own application fee, but get that done by December 28th, and then try to schedule visitation on Saturday, January 9th, and Saturday, January 23rd. And they're just going to have to include their conversations on the Talking Parents app to see about the time.
Judge, could we request that the children be separated for the first couple of visitations?
I tell you what, for the January visitation, let's see if they can schedule a time with Olivia and a time with Stella, hopefully back to back, but separate.
Thank you. And I don't know if you were through or not. I had a note of the cell phones or the video, I think, came up, and both came up in this hearing today. Could we make it in order that no one would bring those types of devices into the visitation, either party?
All right. So any response to that, Mr. Mahan?
Judge, I think that would be an excellent idea, and I would agree to that. And then the other thing is that if we could have a timeline, say by 6 o'clock on Friday preceding the visit, so 6 o'clock Friday the 8th or 6 o'clock Friday the 22nd, that Mr. Ballard will inform Ms. Bolton if he is going to exercise his visit and be there, because he has not done so in the past, and it's a problem. They don't know if he's going to show, and so especially this past weekend, it was a problem.
All right. So
I have no problem with that. I think that would be appropriate.
okay. So the Friday before. So and again, I'm not familiar with Fort Ringo. I'm assuming if there's a schedule made and people don't show up, they probably still have to pay, but I don't know that. So the Friday before, so that'd be Friday the 8th and Friday the 22nd. I mean, both parties need to confirm on the Talking Parents app that the time of the visitation and that they're confirmed that they're going to be there.
Can we have a time limit, say by 6 o'clock p.m., Judge?
We'll say and a lot of this, I mean, I can say 6 o'clock p.m. I just don't know if Fort Ringo wants some type of confirmation or not. So, I mean, I can say that by 6 o'clock, they'll both enter on Talking Parents. It may be good to see what Fort Ringo says on their schedule, whether or not they want a confirmation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to save my client driving all the way to Bryan College Station.
Yeah, and I understand that. I think that's appropriate. And Fort Ringo may require that as well, but I think I would go on record to say that I would take that additional step myself and notify and advise my client to notify the app, whether by 6 p.m. on those Fridays prior to the visitation, Jim, that he would notify whether he's coming or not. I get what you're saying. I understand it.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. So then the main parts, and I'll send an email to everybody. But again, both parents are to register and pay with Fort Ringo by December 28th and schedule visitations on January 9th and January 23rd. And at least for those January visits, there'll be a separate time period, one for Olivia and one for Stella. Neither side will take, either Mr. Bagnell or the children will take a cell phone into the visitation. And that the Friday before, Mr. Bagnell will confirm by the Talking Parents app that he'll attend, and Ms. Bolton needs to confirm that she'll be there. All right, so.
That's not a problem, Judge. We'll do that.
Okay, so yeah, I still want to wait before I enter the final order to see how this is going. So we'll just hold off, entering a final order, but let's see how this works with Fort Ringo, and obviously keep meeting with Ms. Svatek and get her input as to how it's working also. All right, so anything else then, Mr. Ballard
Judge, I have nothing further at this time.
and Mr. Mahan?
No, Your Honor. Okay.
And I have not seen that Mr. Bro's come back on. Do we know?
Well, he just texted me that he's in the waiting room, Judge. I don't know what happened, how he got.
Let me see if I can just admit him, and I'll restate what we just said and then see if he has any comments. So Mr. Bro, can you hear? I see he's muted.
Yes.
I don't know if you can try texting him back and
Let me call him, Judge. I'll call him. Brian, are you there? Oh, okay, unmute. Go ahead and unmute yourself. He let you in. Okay. He's on there, too.
all right, so Mr. Bro, can you hear? All right, well, I'll include him in the email. But again, that
Awesome.
I'm assuming Mr. Bro cannot hear. All right, so again, I'll send an email that covers those items I talked about, and we're just going to have to see how this is going probably into January to see what the next step is. All right, anything else today?
No, Your Honor. Thank you for indulging us.
Thank you.
Thank you.